lockdown ਤਾਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਹੁਣ ਉੱਠੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ and people are allowed to venture out a little bit. But I hope you guys have been still keeping safe and still listening to government guidelines. So, all these weeks we've been bringing lots of different topics, and today's topic that we're actually bringing is about bullying. Yes, bullying. We've all heard it, we've all experienced it, or we've kind of known someone who's actually gone through it themselves. But bullying, you're not just on your own. And that's what today's topic and today's discussion is about. And I have three beautiful guests on my show today. And yes, lucky enough, we have got the boys from all the way from the US. So I've got Gertz, Jesse, and Sukifan on my show today. So welcome back, guys. I'm so excited to speak to you. How are you all? Are you okay?
Doing well.
Good.
Truly blessed.
So today we're talking about bullying. When we look at bullying, what type of bullies do we see, and how is a bully actually? When we look at bullying, for example, as a whole, how does a person even become a bully? So I'll start with Gerps. I'll start with you. So what's your opinion? What's your view on it? How does a person even become a bully? How is bullying actually seen in your world?
Definitely. I think there's different types of bullies. They all come in different shapes, sizes. It comes in different forms, mentally, physically, even cyberbullying. That's a very big thing that's happening these days. More so now, I feel like it's a lot easier for people to hide behind a keyboard and totally mess with somebody's day and be anonymous. So that type of bullying is increasing, and statistics are showing a lot of data that supports mental health and people's thinking in terms of the people who are being bullied. So that's a very big topic that's happening now. But in terms of what creates a bully, there's so many different things. But one thing there could be is a misunderstanding at the home setting. Oftentimes, children who are abused by relatives or people in their house are more likely to bully and to show signs of aggression and violence than those who are not abused at the house. A kid may become a bully also because it gives them a sense of control of their environment because of probably not having that control in that home setting. But some kids may bully because it gives them a popularity and showing signs of like social status. Sometimes that attention seeking behavior, whether it's negative or positive, it's still attention behavior. Whether it's through a negative means or positive, they're still getting that attention from their peer groups, which could validate what they're doing in terms of bullying or that behavior. It could also be a sign of weakness. Maybe there's a sense of insecurity about themselves or their place in those social group settings or in their environments, and they respond with bullying to cover up that weakness or that perception of their weakness. There could also be pressures within that social groups from other kids. A lot of times you see kids ganging up on each other and they're cheering somebody on as they're bullying, and so that can create that sense of pressure that even though they may feel inside that it's something wrong, they having that validation from their peers could make them push to still have those acts of bullying. But it could also be payback from previous bullying. It's almost like chaining, where they pass it on as time goes on. If they are bullied, that's all they know. They may just keep pushing on with that narrative, and they might keep going and bullying on the next person. So those are just a few that I could think of in terms of what creates a bully. It's so many different ways, different types of environments, and who's around them.
And so, and I'll ask a quick on this. Do you think there's different age groups for bullying? So, when we look at bullying itself, is it do we just see kids getting bullied? Because there's a lot of, we normally say, oh, kids get bullied, and we talk a lot about kids getting bullied. But is there different age groups, and if there are, what are they?
No, I think bullying can affect all ages. I think even to, adults, to even elders, like, there's workplace bullying that we hear about as well. So it doesn't just stem from the classroom, but I do think if the home life does affect you, I think. So if you haven't got that sort of stability at home, I feel like that's what kind of makes that bully want to go and vent and take out their frustration by bullying somebody else. You know, seeing that they're much more stronger and powerful. And again, from like abusive families, or you know, if you see kids that are, you know, in domestic violence sort of families and see the father the way they are with their mother, that child must think, you know what, this is right. Being violent or being bullying or being nasty to someone is the way that, you know, is normal. And then they go and do that to, say, in schools to children. But oh no, I think, you know, even adults will face bullying and ages, even like I said, even elders as well. And now that we see that lots of bullying on social media, that's not just
Yeah.
children. You know, that's we see celebrities and such being bullied, and there's all sorts of ages. It's not just in the classroom, and it's not just by children, not at all.
Do you think it's embarrassing? So if anyone's going through bullying, have you guys all experienced someone that's gone through bullying? I know I've gone through bullying at school and it was horrendous. It was horrific. I know that as one of us has either experienced it, or you know, one of us, or that we know someone that's gone through it. Do you think it's embarrassing to talk about it?
I think most people that do get bullied are embarrassed because I
Mm,
mean it's cool to be the bully, but not it's
mm,
not cool to be the one that's being bullied, right? And most of the time that's how it's portrayed, and that's why some other bullies are doing it because they just want to fit in or they want to be cool and stuff like that. So especially when it's a younger kid getting bullied, and you know, in our, I feel like a lot of the things that's taught in school, or like not by the teachers, but at least by the kids, is like, hey, don't snitch, don't tell anybody, don't tattletale on me, shikayat nahi loni meri, shikayati tattu nahi banna. So it's like all those little things, they have that pressure. It's like, oh my God, if I say something, I might get bullied more, or I might be that one kid or what that one person that's doing what I'm not supposed to do. But it's like even that is kind of set by society, right? It's the bullies that said if you snitch, you get stitches. It's not that no one that was good mentally stable said, hey, you know what, don't do this. Anybody who's mentally stable is gonna say, hey, you know what, talk to somebody. If there's an issue, go talk to somebody. Share your feelings with somebody, so maybe someone can help you, or you can just get it out. And while talking about it, you might be able to come up with a solution. You know what I mean? But I do think it's all over, but it varies, you know what I mean? But it's definitely embarrassing depending on, what's happening. Most people wouldn't be comfortable to talk to anybody.
Yeah,
mm,
I
And I do
think it causes a
think
sense of I was gonna say it causes a sense of anxiety too. The people who are getting bullied, it creates a sense of anxiousness, and do they feel like they're able to go to an adult? And yes, teachers always say, "Come to us if you need anything," but maybe that's not validated at home. Maybe some of the bullying's happening in that environment, and we are not able to recognize, or at least parents don't recognize when bullying's happening, because there is a generational gap now with technology and how it's increasing. The way that bullying looked like for them is different than how bullying looks like nowadays. And I think that disconnect also creates this disconnect between the generations of children and the adults. And so from a parental perspective, from adult perspective, we have to do our due diligence to be able to foster that environment where a kid can go to us for help, and can, if they have any feelings of doubt, anxiousness, depression, that they should be able to feel safe enough to come. And unfortunately, in Opna community, we don't talk about depression. We don't talk about emotions the way that we should. And we are doing a disservice to our kids by not creating those loving environments that help when things like bullying happen, because we don't feel like it's safe, or we can't talk to our parents.
What about you, Sukiben? What do you think? How do you feel about it?
I was going to say, like, I think as well, when we're saying they are embarrassed, another thing is that if they say something to somebody, the fact that, say a child tells their parents, they'll feel more embarrassed because the parent might go into school. So as a child thinking, oh my God,
Mm,
my parents are coming into school to sort of, telling them that my child's being bullied, they will, and if anybody else sees that, that child's going to probably feel embarrassed, like, oh my God, your parents about to come in and, you're not strong enough to deal with the problem yourself. So I think a lot of them sort of, that's another reason why they don't tell their parents, because they're worried about how it's going to be handled, and it'll be embarrassing if the parents have to then visit the school for that child as well.
I think also another thing that we mentioned, it was in our previous episode. So, Jesse, I don't know if you remember, but you said that, you know, your parents said to you, Jay, and then कोट खा के ना ही कानू जे आना तक कानू छितर खा के ना ही कोट मार के आई, you know. So I think for us, a lot of parents, we hear that a lot, don't we, in our culture कि जे आना तो कोट खा के कानू ना ही नहीं तो तेरे छितर बजे. You know, I think for us, you know, for whether it's our generation or the new generation, or even for the older generation, do you think that's one of the things, you know, that's part of the embarrassment? कि जे ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਨਾ ਕਟਾਪਾ ਚਾੜ ਕੇ ਆਈਏ, we're not strong enough to do it, or we will act or pretend ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਕੁੱਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਾਧੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਆ, and trying to act cool. Do you think that also leads part of the, you know, part of the health for even kids, for us, for other people that surround us, for all ages?
100%, 100%. I mean, it builds a foundation, right? You know, kids are they're soaking in information all the time, and they just want to know and they want to learn more. So when they're hearing that, hey, you know what, it's wrong to, well, number one, it's wrong to get in a fight, but when they keep hearing that, you know, it's wrong to get in a fight and lose a fight, and then it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, the right thing always to do is, if a violence does come a solution, is to always win. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's good to have that winning mentality, but not in this case. You know, there's other ways to win bullying, but other than violence. You know what I mean? And so I definitely do think it's something that's even in our generation, and you know, it was a big thing. Even I've seen it happen still. You know, I've seen some younger kids, and I've overheard parents saying stuff to them, you know, that they don't realize they're just having a conversation because that's how they were raised. So they're just passing that information on, but they're not realizing what kind of impact their words have on these kids, right? I feel like, and it's good and bad at the same time, is people are more sensitive now, right? With social media and everything like that, people are more accessible. So that makes them more sensitive. That makes them more vulnerable to attacks and bullying and stuff like that. So a lot of the times, you know, parents don't even know what's going on. You know, most of the parents aren't on social media, or most of the parents aren't in school with them to see what happens at the playground or what happens at lunch to them. You know what I mean? So it really just comes back to the parents making the kids comfortable to them. And, you know, piggyback off of that, I actually want to share a story with you guys. It has to do with my nephew. He's actually turning 10 today. And last year, he was just a little off. This is right before COVID happened and schools went out. He was just being a little off. He was just always walking around lost in his own little world. And I asked my sister, I'm like, is there something going on with him? Like, he's a very bubbly kid, but he's just really off these days. What's going on? She's like, I don't know. I can't figure it out. 3, 4 days later, my sister calls me and we go over, and he has this little drawing book that he, you know, draws in, and he makes like pictures and art in. And he had drawn like a scenario of him at the playground playing with his friends, and then there's this like another bad guy in the drawing, and he's like he's saying stuff to him, he's laughing at him, saying ha ha ha, and like it. I mean, it all made sense in the right way. He was being bullied, but he wasn't talking to anybody about it. He kept denying it. He's like, "Oh, everything is fine. I love my friends." Da da da. But it was actually one of his friends who is amazing to him when they're together. But as soon as the other kids come around, he turns 360 and starts bullying him. So, like, you know, the reason why I brought that up is like he didn't tell that. My sister had to dig it out, you know, do some research, look into his stuff. So it's like parents sometimes have to take the extra step to get involved. Doesn't matter how old the kid is, you know, especially the older they get, the more closed up and, you know, sheltered they want to be from everything, even their parents. They don't want their parents to think that, you know, it's not a cool thing to be bullied. So they don't want their parents to know that they're being bullied. They don't want their friends to know they're being bullied, you know, so they don't want to come home and tell them that, because it is embarrassing. It is anxiety. And not to mention in our culture, you know, as a boy, of course, the cool thing is, you know, मैं जाटता मैं दे वो this and that, and then as a girl it's like मैं जट्टी मैं this मैं सोनी मैं this and that or that. It's like that's great to promote the good stuff, but it's like we have to promote and talk about what the real issues are. No one's walking around right now with guns and shooting people if you look at them wrong. No one. That's not reality. No one lives that real life, right? But that's what's being sold, and the problem is people are buying it to the core. Like they're believing it. They actually think that these people that they look up to, who are their idols, they actually live this lifestyle. They actually go and sell drugs. They don't go to a job all day long. They do gating on stuff like that. But that's not reality. So then these, people that are learning and listening and relating to it for the wrong reasons are trying to live that lifestyle and trying to be cool, and being vulnerable is like the worst thing in our culture. If you talk to anybody about your feelings, is like, oh my God, pata nahi ki ho gaya. You know what I mean? But we have to change that. We have to, like, whether it be through music, whether it be through communication, whether it be through stuff like this that we're doing, we have to be able to change that. Is how can we make it okay for our culture to be able to communicate and be vulnerable with each other? That's a huge issue in our generation, and I think it's still an issue in the new generation coming up as well. If anything, I feel like it's only gotten worse. You know what I mean? But
Definitely.
yeah.
I think it has gotten worse with the Instagram, social media, because people can make fake profiles, and it's unfortunate because the types of things that people wish upon each other, like go kill yourself, and I see these on a lot, especially like female influencers and people who are trying to promote social health and mental health and all this. You have some random people with 0 followers that are saying the most heinous things, saying derogatory terms. Like even to me, on my social media, somebody who I'm a very overly positive person, and I promote positive health and all that. And even me, I'm susceptible to getting hate. And unfortunately, it's behind people who don't feel like they have a shield behind them, because they can make a username whatever they want it to be, and they can say some of the most atrocious and be trolls. That's the biggest thing now, is people, they want to become trolls, and just to mess with people. And it's very unfortunate because it has very deep implications for those who are more susceptible to having mental health, and to those who may not be as mentally physically strong. And it just creates this negative environment. And unfortunately, when you're on social media, you can't really control as much as you think you can, because yes, you can make profiles private, but you can always have message requests. You will see it. They'll find a way for you to see a message. And with COVID and everything, COVID has shut everything down. So our physical interactions have pretty much stopped, but everything online and online presence have been increased. And so people get people are getting more bold in how they're bullying, and it's very unfortunate because a lot of the youth are this is what they're using. They're used to, social media. That's what they were pretty much grown up into. And so the rate that they are absorbing information through online presences is a lot quicker than even our generation. And
So,
it's
do you guys? I was going to say, do you guys think so? With everything that we face in our generation, and things, time obviously change ਹੁੰਦਾ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿਆਣੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ generation different ਸੀਗਾ ਹੁਣ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਸਾਡਾ generation different ਸੀਗਾ and the generation that's coming that's a different generation altogether. The more and more we see everything ਅੱਜਕੱਲ online ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ and it's so easy, isn't it, with the click of a finger ਕਿ online ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਣਾ, online ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ. And even to the point, like you said, bullying is all online as well. Kids kind of I seen an advert actually the other day, and I mentioned this to Suki Ben actually. I remember we were talking about it, that Dove has done an advert where they seen a young girl, 13-year-old girl, and they, with all the computer like effects and everything, they made her look really nice and pretty. But she doesn't look like a normal girl. She looks like this person that you'd see on Instagram. But it's all done with makeup. Her hair's all big and bouncy, curly. And when you look at the picture, when everything's taken away and all the editing and everything's taken away, she just looks like a normal girl, normal school girl, and with a very baby face. Nothing's done to her face, no touch up, nothing. So, with social media, bearing that in mind, that social media is quite big and it's quite broad. And of course, the culture, as we're growing and growing, now sara culture same we have banana change we ho janda hai. Do you think it's killing, killing the happiness for, for people that get bullied, that are targeted? Suki, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so like before, we say that bullying would stop in the classroom because there was no social media. Whereas now, like it's constantly in the home, especially if children are playing on their computer games online in their bedrooms. Parents are so busy these days; they don't even think what's going on. I mentioned myself, my father didn't realize the games that my nephews were playing on, like Minecraft and Roblox and stuff like that. It has online chatting facilities, and I kind of looked over and I could see there was a lot of swear words being used by the players, and I was like, this isn't good. I was like, we need to turn this off and keep an eye on what they're doing. But with social media, how we've said everything's amazing. It's your best life. You're on your best holidays. You're wearing expensive brands, clothes, whatever people show. I feel like that's putting extra pressure on children. Because I don't know about you guys, because I remember when I was in school, if I had really cheap brand shoes on, kids would take the mick out of you. Like, oh, you're wearing cheap stuff. You got the latest Nike trainers and things. So when they see this social media glamorous life of all the things they have, that child will be saying to parents, "My nephew's only 8 years old and he wants a Gucci bag for school." I'm like, how have you found about Gucci? He's like, everybody's got it online. Do you know what I mean? So
I
he's
wish I
seeing all these expensive things, and he's seeing Apple Watches and MacBooks and things, and he's like, he's asking me for an extra screen so he can play on his computer and stuff. And I'm like, where are you seeing all this? And he's like, online, YouTube. It's everyone's got it, and I feel like he thinks if he doesn't have that, kids will be like, oh, why, pick on him because he's not got these branded things. So it's more pressure on him.
I was gonna say social media has that greater accessibility, but advertisements have been doing it for decades, 50, 60 plus years, ever since TV. You see billboards of people with brighter teeth. You have people who have been altered on billboards. You have athletes that are using their influences to do like Sprite, to do Nike, to do Adidas, and all these different types of um, advertisements. So it's like it's always been there in terms of trying to have a certain image. Like if I wear these shoes, I'm going to be like LeBron James. If I'm going to wear this type of shirt, I'm going to be like Michael Jordan, right? These are things that have been happening for generations now, but the accessibility has increased with having cell phones and having the internet. I mean, back in the 90s, the internet to even load an image, it takes a whole day. Now it's within seconds. So our accessibility has increased, but I feel like that perception of wanting that certain body, wanting that certain face, that's been you know, that's already been preconditioned. You go to a salon and the person's like, I want this type of haircut. I want this um, type of blowout in terms of the hair, right? It's the perception of what they want and what's popular. And I think with Minecraft, things like that, also being that social online presence, it also increases that accessibility to each other. And fortunately, I don't know if you knew this, Fortnite has the ability to block chats and filter words. Instagram now has the ability where you can filter certain words so that way it doesn't show up on your feed and it's deep down in the comments. So if you're a parent out there or an adult and you have a child that has social media like Twitter, Instagram, or is playing online for like Roblox, look at the safety settings because there's a kid friendly version of these apps, as well as there's a way to filter out words. So if somebody were to say an obscene word, you can have it so that way it doesn't show up. If somebody types it, it either turns up as an asterisk or it will just not show up altogether. So there are ways now that people are recognizing, these people who make these apps, they're recognizing that there's a lot of power in what people are saying. So now we're taking some of that control back by being able to filter out some of the words for the parents' sake, as well as for the so there are steps being made. How quickly they are making them, I mean, it could be quicker, but we could just only hope that it's a step in the right direction.
And on that note, a wrap. So that is a wrap up for today's show. All you guys that are actually watching, I hope you guys actually took something away from today's show and kind of understand, you know, where bullying comes from and, you know, the types of bullies that we actually have. You know, kali bullying, you know, sometimes bullying isn't even seen. And, you know, kind of samne wani hunda par fir bhi is done indirectly. So bullying is so done in so many different ways. And jidda generation saadi vaddi hai, the generation they na sara kuch change hunda rehanda, but bullying hasn't stopped and it's been going on for years, you know. But no one should be treated unfairly. Saਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, you know, should be treated, you know, treated fairly because ਅਸੀਂ ਸਭ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਆ. And on that note, ਕਿਤੇ ਦੂਰ ਨਾ ਜਾਇਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਫੇਰ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਇਸ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਬਾਰੇ and ਇਸ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਡੂੰਗੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. So for now, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. That was actually really good, guys. I think